It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, hopefully you guys are all doing well out there. I am getting better every day. Been going to see the chiropractor, getting this nerve thing I got going on. I had a pinched nerve in my neck, and it's been a pain in the butt, man. It's weird because, like, the pain from the neck and stuff is gone, but there's just, like, nerve crap going on. So, like, it hurts in my elbow and stuff. It's weird, but anyways, I'm doing good over here. Hopefully you guys are doing the same. Hopefully everybody's staying healthy and safe. We have a few things I want to cover as usual. If you guys haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, definitely helps out the stream, helps out the videos and all that good stuff. Okay. If you guys have questions, please put your questions in caps lock in the chat. If I don't get to them, you guys can feel free to repost them until myself or a moderator doesn't or tells you to stop posting the question, basically, okay? So, 2 videos the last week. The videos were the beer is warm again, and that was another one on a Glycol unit that we had. Let me see what else we got going on in there. Oh, yeah, I guess you guys see that, huh? Here, I'll be nice. Well, actually, no. Hold on. Yeah, I do got the fan going. My camera angle is different for some reason. That's going to bug the heck out of me. So let me fix that real quick. I don't know why it did that, because it shouldn't be showing all that stuff on the camera angle. What happens is when I do the overtime show, there we go. Perfect, right there. When I do the overtime show, I adjust my camera angle. And sometimes I forget to set it back. So, but yeah, 2 videos the last week. We had the beer's warm again. That was a Glycol unit. You know, we've had a lot of issues with those particular Glycol units. But hey, I get a lot of people asking me, hey, why doesn't the customer replace that equipment? Why aren't you selling them new equipment? When you're dealing with chain restaurants, you don't really get to sell very much equipment. You're kind of just along for the ride. So, of course, I give the customer recommendations. Now, in that situation, I wouldn't be doing anything with Glycol units. I wouldn't be selling them a new Glycol unit. I would leave that up to the beverage company. So when we have these units fail and they're old and I put a lot of work into them and stuff like that, you know, I just give the customer a quote and let them make those decisions. You know, occasionally there's times when I'll really push to the customer, hey, you know what, this is in really bad shape. You might want to consider replacing it, but it's very rare that I actually do that. So, all right, let me see what else we got going on in here. What baby step am I on? Matthew Carey, are you talking about, give me context. You talking about the Dave Ramsey program? Give me context. Post it in the chat again. Hopefully I see it. So, all right, let's see what else. What glycol percentage am I using? Basically, I look at the freeze point. I typically like to, okay, I'm not an expert when it comes to glycol equipment or beverage equipment, okay? But my experience is that with certain systems, the glycol concentration may change. I've just had beverage people tell me before, hey, don't mix it that, you know, concentrated or, you know, dilute it down or whatever. So I look at the freeze point. I don't have an exact concentration that I always run. I just kind of look at the freeze point, and my personal preference, and anybody out there in the chat want to correct me if I'm wrong or send me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I typically like to get about 20 degrees below glycol set point is what I like to see. So if I have a glycol set point of 27 degrees, then I like to get the freeze point temperature about 20 degrees lower than that. That's just my personal preference. But again, I've been scolded by the beverage people for, you know, running it too concentrated or not concentrated enough, different things. So just, you know, I don't have an exact number that I follow. I'll usually buy the glycol and then mix it myself. So, all right. Let me see what we got going on in here. Can I tell you how HVAC is in Phoenix, Arizona? Well, HVAC, I live in Southern California, but I know that HVAC in the Phoenix, Arizona area is going to be great in the summertime. It's going to be insane. In the wintertime, they have mild temperatures just like we do out here in California, so it's going to be hit and miss. All right, let me see. Tips for installing a mini split AC system in a shed. Don't oversize it. And or oversize it if you want to, I guess. It just depends. Do you have humidity problems, stuff like that? Installing it in a shed, it's going to be really easy to oversize that mini split. It might not control humidity. I don't know what you're trying to do. Are you trying to make a pot farm out of your shed? You know, I don't know. I'm joking with the pot farm, but seriously, if you're making a pot farm, humidity is a big thing. So you want to make sure that you're not drying out the pot at a certain time and, you know, or drying it out at other times. So you want to be careful and make sure that your equipment is adequately sized. Okay. As far as temperatures go here, it's kind of crazy right now, guys. It damn near hit 80 degrees today at my house. Yeah, it was kind of warm. So I want to start this off. You know, I kind of talk about it a lot in a lot of my videos, and I just kind of want to go into a little conversation about this. You know, when it comes to customers, okay, I can't stress enough how much we as technicians need to be honest with our customers, okay? The way that I run my business, okay, is honesty is first, okay? Because in my eyes, honesty is going to keep the customer calling me back, okay? Any monkey can fix something, right? But someone who the customer trusts fixes it right, then the customer continues to call them back over and over and over again. That's what I'm going for, okay? I'm not looking for a quick buck, right? So sure, I can probably sell compressors or whatever all the time on my equipment, and you know what? My customer probably wouldn't even question, okay? And I'd probably get away with it for 6 months to a year before they really started to question my invoices. But I don't want to be fired in a year or 6 months or a month from now. I want to keep working for these customers for years and years and years to come. So honesty and integrity are so important, right? Don't try to rip the customers off, okay? Yes, I realize that some company have sales quotas and they're really pushing you to make sales and stuff like that. You know, I'm not going to judge a company that's pushing sales because, hey, who am I to judge? But man, you know, sales is hard, especially on the commercial side. Most of the repairs in the equipment puts everything in front of your face and you have the opportunity to sell a repair. You know, I guess upselling and stuff, you know, can be beneficial at certain times, but it's so easy for me to stay busy just being honest and fixing what's broken and being, you know, a good contractor for my customers that I don't have to worry about upselling and all this weird stuff. Now, I am super thankful. And, you know, and there's times that I'm slow too. Maybe it's because I'm not upselling and things like that. Okay. Another thing that I get quite often is people asking me, why am I not selling my customer a preventative maintenance program? You know, I'm out there cleaning this equipment. The ACs are smashed up. They're dirty. They're greasy, whatever. How come, you know, I'm doing the customer a disservice by not selling them a preventative maintenance agreement? You know, I get that comment quite often. Guys, they must not know what it's like to work for chain restaurants. Okay. I do commercial, light commercial refrigeration for chain restaurants and, you know, just mom and pop restaurants and stuff too. But for the most part with the big companies, they're not using me for preventative maintenance. They hire national filter changing companies that come across the country that come in and do a filter change on their equipment for, you know, $100. It's insane. I don't even know how they do it, but they're not maintaining the equipment. And that's not what the customer is asking the company to do. Okay. So my customers, for the most part, I have 3 customers that allow me to do preventative maintenance service. And I have 1 customer that doesn't do any preventative maintenance with me. They have a filter changing company. Actually, I have 2 customers that do that. So, you know, when people ask me, why am I not selling them a filter changing or, you know, a PM, it's because the customers don't want that from me. Okay. So it is what it is. All right. Remember your guys' questions, put them in caps lock. I'm going to be going back and forth between the chat and my my list of things to talk about. So any tips for when you are pricing a job that's equipment supplied by the customer? Kevin Pfeifler or Failer. Kevin Failer, maybe? I don't know if I'm butchering your name. Okay, so I deal with that all the time where customers supply their own equipment. So when that's the case, you know, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I'm going to still be honest with the customer. Okay. I'm not going to try to rip them off, but anytime I do a walk-in change out, I'm really pressuring the customer to let me change the line set. It's one thing if the equipment is only a year old and for some strange reason they're changing it, but anything that's over 5 to 6 years old, I'm going to be inspecting the line set. More than likely, I'm going to be pushing them for a line set replacement, especially if I'm changing from, you know, an older R22 system that had mineral oil, and I'm going to everything that we're dealing with now is 448A with polyester oil. I'm going to push a line set change too. So majority of the time when I do customer supplied stuff, I'm selling them a line set, I'm selling them disconnect switches, and I'm pretty much selling them my labor, any plumbing materials, and any electrical materials that I'm going to use. The customer will usually provide the condensing unit, the evaporator, and that's about it. Luckily, my customers don't deal with any of those stupid quick connect line sets with Aero Quip fittings or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about that crap. But even when I have done like startups, I've done startups for, you know, chains that pop up all over the place, restaurants, and where I'm just working for a general contractor, you know, and they've got customer supplied equipment and they hand it to me and it's like Aero Quip fittings and stuff. Actually, in my quote that I give the general contractor, I cut out all that crap. So I cut out the quick connect fittings, you know, braze in the line sets and be done with it because I hate Aero Quip fittings or quick connect fittings. If you guys don't understand what the Aero Quip fittings are, it's for a completely pre-charged system. So it looks like a ginormous flare nut, but the line set's actually charged with the refrigerant. The condensing unit has refrigerant and the evaporator has a trace amount of refrigerant in there. And what they're trying to do is the equipment manufacturers are doing this so that general contractors can install this equipment. Oftentimes, if you have pre-charged condensing unit, line set, and evaporator, then, you know, technically you don't have to do an evacuation. So a general contractor can come in and have his handyman, you know, twist on the fittings. On a side note, those handyman and those general contractor installed jobs usually generate some work in the future because they don't understand proper line set placement and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother conversation. But all right. Let me see what else. Any tip how to get restaurant customers to start your new company? And thank you. Chevy truck. That's a hard one, man. That's $1 million question. How do you get more customers? How do you break into the commercial sector? It's all about who you know. You know, we have been fortunate enough that when my dad started this company in 1989, I think is when he started it. When he started in 89, he got one customer from a friend. And that customer has built our business to this point because we've worked for that same customer for a very long time. People have left that customer, managers moved to other restaurant chains, brought us to those chains, and so forth. So for the most part, it's been word of mouth. There's been some customers that we've gone out and, you know, poached or approached, I guess I should say, and stuff. But for the most part, it's all been word of mouth for us. So as far as how a contractor could get in with commercial restaurants, that's going to be a hard one. Commercial restaurants, it's usually not the on-site management that has anything to do with the decision-making process, especially chain restaurants. It's usually on a facilities director level. The only way I could say to get your foot in the door at a restaurant, I mean, just to get you literally in the door, is apply to become warranty-approved contractor for, you know, these refrigeration or ice machine companies. That will get you in the door because when there's warranty work, they'll call you. You get out there and then you can hand out your cards, but where that's going to go in a chain restaurant, that's going to be a hard one. So don't have a lot of great advice on that one. What AC size should be installed in a 2,000 square foot building like the tonnage? Todd the Gamer, it's you don't base an air conditioner off of that size. So there's a lot of things you have to consider. You have to consider the heat infiltration in through the building or the heat loss. So you have to basically calculate or do a load calculation based off of the square footage, the location of the building, where the sun rises, where the sun sets, you know, the insulation value in the walls, the insulation in the windows, you know, all that stuff. So it's not a simple throw in a 5-ton. It's not that simple. And it really gets critical depending on where you are located in the country, because if you're in Florida and you have really high humidity levels, then throwing in an oversized piece of equipment is going to cause some serious problems, potentially have some, you know, growth in the walls, mold, that kind of stuff. So you got to be very, very careful with that. All right, let me see what else. Okay. What causes voltage drop across a contactor? Well, basically a connection that is not good. So if you have a contactor that has 2 points on it, I'm trying to see if I have a contactor back here. I think I do. This one has an overload assembly, but this is off of an exhaust fan, but this is a contactor on the top. And you have 2 connection points right here, and you're usually going to have a bar in the middle that's going to pull in and make a connection and allow voltage to pass through. Well, when that connection point gets deteriorated, full of carbon, it starts to run a really high resistance. It heats up, and that causes a voltage drop because the contacts are just burnt or pitted or whatever. So typically a high resistance or a voltage drop across a contactor is caused by a failing contactor, something stuck in the contactor, bugs stuck in the contactor. Ironically, someone had asked me a question, and this is the perfect time to talk about this. Someone asked me about my opinion. It was actually Andrew asked me about my opinion on the Emerson Sure Switch contactor. So the Sure Switch contactor is a totally enclosed contactor. It is not open to the elements whatsoever. It all happens inside. So you have less potential for bugs to get inside there, ants to get inside there, you know, and less potential for the contactor to be exposed to the elements. And now, do I have experience with the Emerson Sure Switch? I personally never installed any of them. I've come across equipment that has them installed. My understanding is you can only get them in 24 volt coil voltage. So they're typically meant for air conditioning systems. And I don't think they come in 3-phase. I think they're only single phase, so 2-pole contactors. Essentially, you know, the Emerson Sure Switch, you know, it looks interesting. Again, I have not a lot of experience with it, but it's essentially a, what do you want to call it? It has, I can't think of the name of it right now, phase monitoring, or it has a voltage monitoring built inside of it. So the contactor, the Sure Switch, has anti-short cycle delay in it. It has brownout protection, so if you get low voltage, that kind of stuff. So it seems like a great contactor that could help out with a lot of the situations, but I'd be kind of curious if you guys in the chat have any experience with the Sure Switch. Again, I have not had an opportunity to install one. I've just come across systems that have them in it. So, all right, let me see what else we got in here. hey, if you guys haven't already, check out my website, hvacrvideos.com. We got these shirts available, these hats. This is the flag design. So this one has the flag on the sleeve. And then if you haven't seen it already, the back says HVACR videos. We also have a couple other designs. This exact shirt is available on a women's cut too, or a women's fit. And it's a V-neck on the women's fit. So check it out, hvacrvideos.com. All right. Am I always on call, Matthew Carey? Well, yeah, I mean, in a way, because I'm the owner. So, you know, I have other service techs that work for me. But you know, if they ever can't figure something out, then, you know, I will have to go out. But we do have a call rotation. So it's a 5-week call rotation. And I'm on call 3 weeks in a row. And then I have 2 other service technicians that each take a week. So I'm on call 3, off 2, on call 3, off 2. And then, but my guys are good. So I rarely ever have to go in unless it's like a big compressor change out or something and they just need physical help lifting. But even then I can find someone to usually help them. So, all right. So Tim B, good question. So Tim says he's looking to buy his first set of wireless probes and he's curious if I have any recommendations. Well, first off, I'm going to go ahead and segue into something else. So my buddies and I, the overtime crew, okay, so Adam, Joe, and Bill, Curious HVAC guy, I brought them in on my YouTube channel, my new tools YouTube channel, okay? I've talked about my tools channel for like a year and a half now. I've promoted it, and I only made 1 video on the tools channel, and I haven't done any other videos. Well, it's just because it's been super stressful. I just posted the link to the tools channel in the chat right now. So I'm bringing the overtime crew into the HVACR Tools YouTube channel, and we're all going to start producing content on that channel. First off, if any of you guys have questions or things that you think we should cover, tool ideas, different stuff like that, feel free to send an email to tools, TOOLS, at hvacrvideos.com. Okay. That's going to be the official email address for the HVACR Tools YouTube channel. So the first video that we are going to be uploading is going to be on the new Testo manifold. So right here, I have the Testo 550S manifold. Also bought 2 of the 605i hygrometers or hydrometers, psychrometers, whatever you want to call them. And haven't opened it yet, but in this box right here is the new wireless Testo manifold. It's the 550i manifold. So it's the one without a screen on it, and it just connects to the smart app. So now, I have traditionally been a field piece wireless probes person. We will see. Time will tell. I'm a pretty diehard field piece fan. Their JobLink probes are amazing. So definitely check those out. There's actually should be links in the show notes of this video. And if you guys are interested in purchasing any tools, check out TrueTechTools.com. I got an offer code, big picture, one word. You can save 8% and it doesn't cost you anything else. But so we'll see. I've always used the field piece JobLink probes. I will now be able to compare to the Testo probes. I have never used a single Testo product in my life, in my career. So this will be interesting trying these out. So we will have to see. I've yet to open that up, but we'll see what happens once I open it up and give it a shot. Now, the cool thing is that I sent these to all the overtime crew also. So Joe got the 55S manifold, Adam got the manifold, Bill got the wireless manifold, and I got the wireless manifold and the regular manifold. So we're all going to be in the video talking about what we think about these Testo manifolds, and then from that point forward, we'll be making other videos together. I've got a couple other things that I'm going to be doing too. Coming up, the new Vito Tech Pack MC, so that's the small backpack. Just ordered that and received that. I ordered... It's not in yet, but it is ordered, the new Vito rolling backpack. So it's the full-size rolling backpack with the handle and everything. Once that ships, it'll be shipped out here. Yeah, a couple other Vito bags, the blackout backpack, and of course, anything else that you guys have suggestions within reason. I'm not saying we're going to do every tool that you guys suggest, because obviously we're not making any money from this channel at this point. In the future, maybe if we start making money, it'll help us to do that. Ways that you guys can help us with this channel is by watching the videos on there, okay? Get the views up. So right now we're at the point where we have enough subscribers, but we need watch hours on the channel. So the more of you that watch the videos, the more it's going to help us to get to monetization status on the HVACR Tools YouTube channel. And then we'll be able to really start purchasing some tools and, you know, checking them out. And I'm going to post a link to the YouTube channel again. Also, we'll be doing giveaways and stuff like that. So please go subscribe, check it out, and there'll be more information to come as time goes on too. So, all right, let's see what else. What else am I missing in here? You're interested in a set of giveaway probes, please. Okay, that's good to know. All right. Do I often see walk-in drains teed in with other walk-ins? Yeah, it's very, very common. See that all the time. Right on, Jeffrey. Thank you very much for the support, man. He says he's glad to be here and he's wearing his t-shirt, so I'm assuming he bought one of my shirts. So thanks, bud. That's really awesome. I appreciate everybody that has supported the channel. That's really cool of you guys. So this whole thing is so weird for me just to, you know, do this YouTube thing, and it's such a trip. So Mr. Ice, the TPXXL, definitely, bud, because I already have the TPXL. As NorCal Dave, my buddy NorCal Dave, if you guys haven't already, go subscribe to his YouTube channel. I don't know if one of the mods can put a link to NorCal Dave's YouTube channel in here, but anyways, NorCal Dave has labeled the TPXL as Tippy. He calls it Tippy because the thing just falls right over. So on the XXL, I noticed it doesn't look like they increased the base size, so it's going to be even more tippy, I'd imagine. But yeah, I'm interested in the TPXXL, so we'll see. They need to change the names a little bit too, because some of them are kind of crazy. In my chat and in my YouTube comments, when you guys post stuff, I want to make it clear I am 100% okay with criticism, okay? I'm good with people posting that they don't like me, that they think I'm a hack. It's cool. I have no problem with that. Everybody's free to say what they want, and I'm not going to go delete someone's comment because they're criticizing me, okay? I've said this many times before, but I will say this again. The only comments I really delete is pure hate. If people have pure hate, especially for another commenter, I delete those, okay? But then also, if people are trying to guess restaurant names or not even trying to be malicious about it, people just randomly say, hey, I know where you're working, or that looks like this particular chain. Guys, those are the only comments that I delete because I try to protect my customers and other customers. Now, I don't just delete the ones that are the right guesses. I delete the ones that are the wrong guesses too. I've just kind of made it a principle that if people are commenting restaurant names, sometimes they slip through the cracks, but for the most part, I delete those comments, okay? The reason why I brought that up was someone had commented on Facebook with some criticism for me in one of my recent videos, and then he went about trying to say what restaurant he thought I was working at, and he was actually incorrect on the restaurant that I was working at, but still, I deleted his comment, but I felt bad because I didn't want him to think that I just deleted it because he was talking crap. I sent him a private message on Facebook. He never responded. I don't even think he looked at it because you can tell on Facebook when people look at it. But still, that's the only stuff. So if you guys have something to say, you know, just don't put the restaurant names in there and it'll be up. And again, feel free. If you guys have criticism for me, that's how I grow. I've learned some things from people that have sent me emails and different stuff. So please keep it coming. All right. What's the tool to test glycol called? It is called a refractometer. So you take a refractometer and you put a couple drops of glycol on it. Well, first, before you use a refractometer, you have to calibrate it. So you put distilled water on it. It shows you the freeze point of water, which is going to be 32 degrees. And then once it's calibrated, then you'll put a couple drops of glycol, and then you look at it in the light and it'll tell you the concentration level and tell you what the freeze point of that glycol, because glycol is an antifreeze base, or it's a propylene based antifreeze essentially. Okay. And then you mix it with water to get a proper dilution ratio. The whole point of using glycol is so you can get things below freezing point. So we'll use glycol as a cooling medium on beverage lines or on chillers and stuff like that, because we can get it below freezing and or close to freezing. You know, unlike water would freeze solid, glycol, we can run it more. Okay. So, all right, let's see what else we got in here. How long should you accept being a helper before you should consider going somewhere else? Greg, that is a good one, man. Well, obviously it's going to take time and experience. And I'm not going to be able to answer that completely for you, but you know in your gut when it's time for you to be let free. But at the same time, you know, if I bring on an apprentice that's fresh out of school, more than likely he's going to be helping me for, you know, at least 6 months, off and on. You know, I might be, you know, letting him loose a little bit more, testing the waters kind of a thing, but I'm not going to throw him to the wolves. Okay. So with me, it's going to be a minimum of 6 months. And then from that point forward, we're going to start evaluating things, and I'll slowly release him, doing more and more until I feel completely comfortable that he can go out and do whatever he needs to do. So, I can't answer for, you know, your company or whatever, but, all right. Okay. Let me see what else. How long? Okay. I already answered that one. Jordan, Bryant, on that HVACR Tools channel, I'll post a link again. I have a, that's the actual one video that I have up there, is on pants. So you asked which pants to wear when it's really hot. I wear the 511 tactical strike pants, and I wear black pants, and they do great in the summertime for me. They're breathable. You know, I don't overheat in them. They're great, great pants. So check out that video on there, and you can see I tried a bunch of different pairs. So, all right, let me get to my list of things. We already talked about that one, and I already talked about that one. So I'm marking things off my list right now. So Sam asks me if I have any tips. He's just coming out of the military, and he's an HVAC service technician in the military, and he wants to transition as a civilian to an HVAC service technician, but he kind of feels like he's not quite ready. He's kind of scared about coming into the public sector. He kind of wanted my opinion. So I've spoken with a few people that come out of the military doing HVAC, and I will say my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that within the military, you know, there's certain pieces of equipment. They're typically not working on a big, broad range of stuff. You know, they have a lot of one certain type of equipment, so they're very, very comfortable working on that. And they have certain procedures, and it's also a little bit different equipment too, because it has to be rugged and be able to be shipped and all that stuff. So one thing I want you to understand is the fundamentals are the same in residential, commercial, refrigeration, all that stuff, okay? The electricity fundamentals, the airflow fundamentals, they're all the same, all right? The controls are going to change. The packages are going to change. The defrost strategies are going to change, okay? That's all stuff that you can learn. So if you have a good understanding of the basic electrical cycle and the basic refrigeration cycle, with a little bit of brain power, you can figure it out moving past that, okay? So if you're a residential tech and you want to get into commercial, you know, going just strictly air conditioning, residential to commercial, you're going to notice higher voltages. You're going to see 230 volt, 3-phase equipment. You're going to see 480 volt equipment. You know, stuff that you typically wouldn't see in residential. You're going to see bigger blower assemblies, package units on the roof that are, you know, 20 tons, 30 tons, 40 tons, big giant ones. But the concepts are still the same. Okay. We're still moving heat from one place to another. That's all that we're doing, is relocating heat, essentially. Okay. So, with air conditioning, it's not that big of a deal. Don't sweat it. Just kind of take a step back, and, you know, you'll figure it out. Okay. So I wouldn't be worried too much about it. You're going to be okay. Feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com if you want to talk more. Okay. All right. Let me cross that one off the list. So Brad had asked me about when I'm doing preventative maintenance service, what is my opinion on doing a PM in the wintertime? Do I check the cooling? And vice versa. Doing a PM in the summertime, do I check the heating? And the answer is, it really depends on what the customer wants, okay? Because in the commercial sector, the customers, majority of the time, aren't letting you just do a free-for-all preventative maintenance. Majority of the time, the customers that I deal with, they kind of structure it. We want you cleaning coils this much. We want you, you know, checking electrical connections this month, and so forth, okay? And or your company may structure it depending on what the customer's budget is, okay? So it really depends on what the customer wants. Do I have a habit of checking cooling in the dead of winter? I wouldn't suggest doing that, you know, especially if you live in a really cold climate, because, you know, things aren't going to work right. It could be a struggle. Same thing with checking heating. You know, let's say you have a heat pump unit and it's 100 degrees outside, and you try to throw it into heating mode. Well, you're going to go off on high head pressure. Okay. That's going to be a problem. So, you know, I really don't make it a habit of, you know, suggesting that. But I'm still going to look at the basics, you know, electrical connections, you know, all that good stuff. Airflow is key. Properly cleaned, blower assemblies, things like that. So hopefully that answers your question for you, bud. Let me get to the chat and see what I'm missing here. Hey, Big Clive's in here, man. Big Clive. You guys definitely check out Clive's stuff too. Majority of you probably already are subscribed to Clive. Clive's a cool dude. But he has, obviously, if you guys don't know, Clive has a rather large YouTube channel where he goes into all sorts of electronic components and devices, tears them down. It's a really, really cool, unique channel. So definitely go check out Clive's stuff. If one of the moderators could post a link to Clive's channels, that'd be great. Any of them would be amazing. All right, let's see what else we got in here. How often do I see mechanical controls mounted on the coil in walk-in freezers? John Deere fan. You know, it happens quite often, actually, and I'm not a fan of it. So we used to have the Johnson Penn A19 BBC controllers, I think, if I remember the part numbers. And it's a coil, a wound coil on top. It's not a remote bulb. It's a mechanical temperature controller. And they would just jam those on the back of the coil. And even some equipment you buy today will still come with the equipment. And sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But yeah, when they mount them on the coil, what I tend to notice is as the equipment gets older, vibration really starts to affect the temperature controllers, and you'll start to get nuisance service calls on a walk-in freezer. Well, the customer will call you out there, say the walk-in freezer's not working, and you'll go there and the temperature controller will be set at positive 20 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And you're like, why would someone adjust it to 20 degrees? You know, I've chased this rabbit. But then what happens is you start to realize that it's the coil's vibration that's shaking the control, and the numbers are coming up. So I'll set it to negative 20, and a couple weeks later, we'll get the same call. You know, and it's like, okay, I usually give it one shot. If I come out and find a temp control set just a little bit too high and it's on a walk-in freezer or walk-in cooler and it's mounted on the coil, I'll give it one adjustment. And if I have to do it again, then it's time to change it and maybe go to a digital control. But I do run across it quite often. I'm not a fan of it all. If I'm going to go back with a mechanical control, that's where I would always install it on the wall behind the evaporator and just run a cord to it. So. All right, let's see what else. Can you use a 3-in-1 on a R290 unit in a pinch, Mr. Ice? Okay, so here's the deal. He means a 3-in-1 universal start capacitor and relay, okay? In the refrigeration side, we have these universal starting components. I have one back there, but I don't know where it is. But it has a relay in it, an overload in it, and a capacitor. Okay, so can you use one of those on an R290 system in a pinch? Well, sure you could. Okay, because R290 compressors, they just contain, it's just a compressor, so it's basic electrical. But this is where you got to be careful. R290 is a flammable gas, okay? So all the starting components and electrical components, motors, electrical connections on any hydrocarbon systems, R290, isobutane, they all have totally enclosed starting components, motors, and everything. They're spark proof, okay? So they make them that way just in case there happens to be a refrigerant leak. And, you know, the weirdest circumstances happen, and then there's a spark from the overload and ignition happens, okay? So I don't suggest using any aftermarket parts, actually, on any R290 and or hydrocarbon systems, just for liability reasons, guys. So could you do it? I'm sure if it meets the specs, I'm sure it would start it, but it could be potentially very dangerous and or a huge liability for you and or your company. So my policy is no aftermarket parts on hydrocarbon systems, period. You know, my insurance company, let's put it this way. If I went to my insurance company and said, hey, I want to, even if I know that this is the right part, I want to put it on this flammable system, you know, and I know it'll work. Is it going to be okay? They're going to tell you no. Your insurance company is going to say flat out, no, you do not want to alter the equipment. Now, we both know that, you know, more than likely nothing's going to happen, but what if something did? Who was the last person to work on it? And what do you think the manufacturer of said equipment is going to say when, even if it's a manufacturer's problem, it catches on fire and someone gets hurt? The manufacturer is going to go back. They're going to do their due diligence. They're going to find a part that doesn't belong on there, and their insurance company is going to blame it on that part and or who installed that part. So when you're working on hydrocarbon systems or flammable refrigerant systems, my policy is OEM parts only for liability reasons. So, GDF Refrigeration asks me, what does the EPA think about me topping off the charge on my system? So GDF Refrigeration does not live in the United States, and I get this question quite often from people outside of the United States. So here in the States, we are legally allowed to top off refrigerant charge, okay? Now, once your refrigerant charge within the circuit of the system, and the circuit is defined, within the system, a system is defined as one individual circuit. So if you have a two-stage system, they do define it. My understanding, they define the first stage as one system, the second stage as another system, okay? So if your total charge is below 50 pounds in a system, okay, it basically, there's not really any restrictions other than recovering the refrigerant if you can, okay? You can keep topping off the charge. The moment that you pass the 50-pound threshold, then there's some log keeping. You have to set up a plan to repair the leaks, but even then it's still kind of a gray area of whether or not you're able to top off the system. You just have to have an action plan in order to fix the equipment, okay? So we are allowed to top off the charge on systems. So with that being said, the next question that I get quite often from people from other countries is, here in America, we don't have the greatest, this is what they're saying, you guys have a responsibility to be more concerned about the environment, all that stuff. Okay, I understand that, and I hear their arguments that I have a moral obligation to make sure that, I'm eliminating all these refrigerants, and that, if it's a leaking system, that I immediately recover the refrigerant, fix the leaks and or shut it down and leave the customer. Okay, but here's the deal. We're a very litigious society here in the United States, meaning that everybody sues for everything, okay? The next thing is, guys, where do I stop? Okay, so I have a moral obligation. I feel bad because I'm letting a system operate with R22 refrigerant that is not leaking right now, but potentially tomorrow it can leak. So, yeah, okay, so let's say I feel bad about that. But where do I stop? Hey, guess what? That electrical contactor in 7 years is going to fail. Should I change it now? Do I have a moral obligation to the customer right now to change that contactor? You got to draw the line, okay? If I went around to every customer and shut off their equipment right now because it had refrigerant leaks and recovered all the charge, I would not be employed by any of those customers ever again. Unfortunately, because there's not a law saying I have to do that, my customers want me to keep maintaining their equipment and making sure that it's working. That means if I have to, top off the charge. So, it is what it is, and I have to stay in business. I'm following the law. I'm not doing anything illegal. I got to stay, in business. So hopefully that makes sense for you, bud. All right, let me mark that one off the list, and let me get to the list of questions inside here. So there's Big Clive's YouTube channel right now. Can you top off R290 and R600? Kevin, I have actually had manufacturers tell me, yeah, just go ahead and top off the charge and let's see if you have any more issues. I don't feel comfortable with that. Again, liability reasons. If it has a leak on an R290 system, it's getting shut down. We're not going to keep the equipment operating. So that's my personal preference. There's not a law saying you have to do that. So let me see what else. What else do we have in here? True says you can only use a 3-in-1 for diagnostic purposes only. Edward Rushing. Well, my personal preference is that I don't like 3-in-1 universal start kits, okay? The reason why I don't like 3-in-1, and I know I'm going to get some backlash from some of my haters on YouTube. Those of you that know what I'm referencing, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I literally had someone go and make a YouTube video filming my video because he didn't like that I said 3-in-1s are compressor killers. Okay. My personal opinion, but anyways, let's go change this or not. Let's just keep talking. So 3-in-1s, the reason why I don't like a 3-in-1 on a system is because two things. The overload, okay? On a compressor, the overload, the clicks-on overload is usually mounted or affixed to the side of the compressor so it can thermally sense the temperature of the compressor and or look at the current and shut the compressor off when it goes off on a high current situation and or a thermal situation where it gets too hot, okay? On a universal 3-in-1, that overload is now moved away from the compressor shell. It's no longer sensing the heat from the compressor shell, okay? That's one thing. The next thing is that the relay and the start capacitor sometimes can be oversized and or undersized. So I prefer to go back with OEM start components on, you know, systems. Now, I do keep 3-in-1s in my van, and I will use them as a diagnostic tool. Okay, if I think I have bad starting components, I'll throw a 3-in-1 on there, see if the compressor starts, do a current draw, let it run for a few minutes, and then I'll turn it off and or leave it running while I'm gone, go pick up the OEM start components, then come back and install them. Would I install a 3-in-1 on an R290 system? Probably not. I haven't had the opportunity to have to do it yet. Most of the like I work on a lot of Delfield equipment. I have some of those OEM R290 starting components in stock, so that way I can test it. So, all right. I already answered that question. Let me mark that off my list. So Dana had asked for my advice on making the switch from residential to commercial. He's having a hard time without the hands-on experience. Again, that is a really hard one to tell. I don't know what your personal experiences are. Are you having a hard time because you don't feel confident moving over, or are people not hiring you? I think it's more than likely you're not feeling confident, but I could be wrong. The reason why I say that is most contractors out there are just hiring people that are actually breathing and have a pulse. People tend to be hiring, unless they're, you know, smaller companies and they're really picky about who they're hiring, then that's a different story. But so switching from residential to commercial, just understand, I kind of already covered this a little bit ago inside the chat, but I mean, you know, all that's going to change is your control strategy, the voltage of equipment you're working on, the size of the equipment, you know, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the concept, the electrical concepts, the refrigeration concepts, and the airflow concepts are still all the same, just bigger equipment. So I wouldn't be concerned about being afraid of that, but feel free to send me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. We can talk a little bit more about that, okay? All right, let's see what else we got in here. Every time I do an ice machine video, I get this question. Where do I get the books, okay, the tech specs books? Hold on. Where do I get these books? This is a Hoshizaki book right here for 404 and 134A. Here's 2 different Manitowoc books, okay? Okay, I get them from the manufacturer. When I go to a Manitowoc training class, they have an in-person class. Well, before the whole craziness right now is online, but you sign up for a class. So my particular distributor for Manitowoc Ice Machines just emailed me about 2 weeks ago, and they said we have virtual training going on, just like they used to do. I paid $25, I think, a person, and they're sending me all the service books, like 3 or 4 of them, and the service manual too. And that's how I get them. Okay. Now, I like physical books. So about once or twice a year, I end up having to go back to my distributor and say, hey, I want to buy some of those books. Sometimes they give them to you, but I don't expect that. Majority of the time, they charge you 20, 30 bucks a book or something like that. And it's well worth it. So I purchase them from the distributor, but each one of those manufacturers, every ice machine manufacturer out there that I know of, has the manuals available online for download. You can get them in PDF format. You can print them out. You can do whatever you want. I wanted to talk a little bit about manuals in general, okay? I'm a huge fan of manuals. I don't like to throw manuals away. In fact, I have a Russell refrigeration manual that was my dad's when he was in school, but it still has lots of relevant information on it. He paid $5.50 for this at Mount Sac Book Rack, which is the community college that we both went to. But this has lots of good information about load calculations and that kind of stuff. So even though this is an old book, I love saving these things. I love old books. I love having physical copies of books. That's my personal preference. But at the same time, too, even documents like this is the Sporlin, let's see, 90-31 document right here. This is for doing head pressure control valves, calculating flooded charge and stuff like that. I love having physical copies of these too. You can get everything online, but it is so nice to have a physical copy of a manual for me. You know, when I first started in the trade, I know some of you guys are probably older than me, but when I first started, you used to have a dedicated area in the back of your van on your shelves for books. You would have a whole shelf full of books and manuals and different things like that. So it was really important. You know, things that people don't even realize. If you work on a particular piece of equipment, let's say you work on True refrigerators, okay? I work on a lot of True equipment. Did you know that they have awesome troubleshooting books and books about their equipment that people don't even know that True Manufacturing does. Look at this. This is a physical book from True Manufacturing called Sequence of Operation for Temperature Controllers. And guess what it does? There's things in here that tell you all the information on how to set temperature controllers, how to diagnose the different styles of temp controls, what the part numbers are, even obsolete part numbers right here, what the tech specs is in case you have to try to make something aftermarket work temporarily. So we can see a temperature controller, a true part number 800-303, and it tells you the cut-in temperature is 35 degrees and the cut-out temperature is 14.5. So you could use that information to, you know, figure out an aftermarket solution if you have to. So I love saving these manuals, installation manuals. When you do equipment installation, this is the old Heatcraft QRC. This is the second generation QRC board. Even though it's an obsolete thing and they don't use that anymore, I still have the information, okay? I love this stuff. So save the manuals when you can. I always say that to new guys. You know, they ask me, hey, how can I become a better apprentice or whatever? When you go on a roof as an apprentice and you're working with someone else and you're working on a piece of equipment up there, you know, you're there to help the person that you're working with. You're there to learn. But at the same time, I always say, whenever you're on a roof and you got a free moment, go around and take pictures of equipment where you can. Be careful, because some customers and rooftops, you're not allowed to use cameras, government sensitive facilities. So be cautious about that. But when you can, take pictures of equipment. If you don't understand what it is, take a picture of the model and serial number. When you go home after work, get on the internet and start looking up that equipment. Find the manual for that Heatcraft condensing unit and print it out and read it. That's how you're going to grow as a technician, by reading that stuff, by saving it, by understanding it. That's how you're going to understand the sequence of operation. So it's so important to better yourself in that way, okay? Let me cross that off. Let's see what else we got in here. What else do we have in the chat? Where did I get the idea of the soda pouring? And do I think it's like Drake and Josh making a cheer to the glass soda bottles and drink the soda? Oh, so the whole intro, this thing right here, right? And if you want to call that soda, you can do so, but be cautious, okay? Because I also call this apple juice, and we all know the truth. So the whole idea was on one of my live streams. I had this thing and I was like, you know what? I want to use the intro from the Offspring Smash album, the intro to the album. And that's where I got the idea of the, it's time to relax, you know, that whole thing. So I played that one time and I immediately got a copyright strike on my YouTube channel. That's actually the only copyright strike I've ever gotten. So that's where I got the concept of that whole beer pour in that intro. I'm kind of spoofing the Offspring Smash thing. Some people have figured it out, but as far as it being a Drake and Josh thing, I never watched Drake and Josh. I think my little brother watched that one when he was growing up. So, all right. What else we got in here? All right. I already talked about it in the beginning. I want to talk about it again real quick, guys. I'm not starting, but I'm working on a new project with my buddies from the HVAC Overtime Show. I'm posting a link right now. It's a new YouTube channel that I've actually already had. It's called HVACR Tools. We're going to be doing some tool stuff. So in the back, you see the new Testo 550S manifold. I've got the new Testo 550i. Also sent the manifolds and or wireless manifolds to everybody else in the Overtime crew too. So we're all going to be making videos together. So go subscribe to that channel. Help us to get the views and the watch hours and all that stuff up. That way we can hit monetization status. If you guys have things that you want to suggest that we do videos on as far as HVACR tools, you can send an email to tools, TOOLS, at hvacrvideos.com. That's going to be the official email for the Tools channel. Feel free to send an email to that and give us suggestions. Of course, right now, kind of being a little cautious on the budget because I just dropped a bunch of money on those manifolds. But in time, we'll get things set up. We'll probably get a Patreon page for just specifically for that channel set up and things like that. So that way we can do more reviews. And we want to do some different, unique stuff for that. So stay tuned. And if you can, subscribe to the channel. All right. All right, what else? What am I missing in here? Okay, so I already covered that right there. Let's cross that off. So in my ice machine video recently, you know, why on the roof, we had an aftermarket condenser. We had temperature controllers controlling the condenser fan motors. And I had a few people say, hey, why didn't you just cut those temp controls out completely and eliminate them, knowing that it would probably work okay. I'm not a huge fan of changing stuff that was engineered a certain way. So I usually have to have quite a few issues before I really, really change something, and or if I see just something completely blatant. But I'm usually not going to modify equipment from the OEM design unless I really, really see the need to. So in this situation, I'm not 100% sure that there's a problem with those condenser fan motors. So I'm not going to really take those controls out just because I don't need to right now. So another question I get quite often, and I have to be careful about this one because this is a personal opinion, but on the Hvacr ice machines, okay, so many people ask me, why in the heck are the ice cube trays or the cube guides plastic? Guys, do the math. If they made a stainless steel cube guide, it would never break. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, personal opinion. I got to be careful about that kind of stuff, but if the cube guides weren't plastic, a stainless steel cube guide would never break. Cube guide is a high selling item, guys, a very high selling item. So just keep that one in mind. All right, you guys can deduct with reason and figure that one out. Let me see what's going on in the chat. I had another question actually. So in these tech specs books, and this is a great one. So in the back right here, this is a Manitowoc book. And when I go to the model numbers, you'll notice, well, if you ever watch my videos and you see me using one of these books, what you'll see is that the model numbers don't 100% match up. Like how is it that those model numbers don't match up? So this is an Indigo series machine. This is not a Quiet Cube, right? And right here, it says, if you want the tech specs data for an Indigo machine, it says I-1400. But the model number might be a 1474, whatever. It might have more digits in there. So majority of the manufacturers, they have a couple different models per model number, slight variations. Like, on a Hvacr ice machine or on a Manitowoc ice machine, you might have one that's made for prisons. So it has security screws on it and, locking covers and things like that. There's different things that are going to change within each model number. So for the most part, you just got to kind of figure it out. If I'm working on a 1400 series ice machine, it's not necessarily going to have the full model number breakdown. And you just got to kind of use some reason and look through the book. In the Hvacr ones, the model number is going to change because, hey, maybe it's a 3-phase machine. Maybe it's a 1,300 pound machine, and it's a modular, meaning that it's stackable. Or modular means that it stands up, right? Or you can have a stackable Hvacr machine that two can be on top of each other. But the compressors are going to be the same between the two, and the components are the same. So different things that change in the model numbers. You just got to kind of be able to read the book, and it'll make sense once you start staring at it. So Mr. Ice asked me what's up with the Testo behind me. I think I covered that. That's going to be for the tool review channel. So I've never used anything Testo in my life, so this will be an experience. I'm going to hold back judgment. But again, I'm a Field Piece fanboy, so we'll have to see what happens when I open that equipment up. When is my truck tour coming? It's just been something that hasn't been a priority to me, bud. In the bar that I ripped the bill, was the ice machine a Hvacr Manitowoc? Oh, I couldn't even remember, dude. That was so many years ago. Don't even know. Is it true nickel safe descaler is bad for Hvacr evaporator plates? Good question. I had some questions about that in my recent video. So if you read through the Hvacr manual, Hvacr says in this book that when you're cleaning the ice machines, let's see if I can find it right now. Where's cleaning at? Looking through component checks. There's usually a section for cleaning in here. And where's it at? I know it's here. And this is a really good live stream when I'm sitting here reading a book right now. Come on, there's a specific thing I'm looking for inside here. For the life of me, I can't find it, so you're just going to have to trust my word for it. So there you go, cleaning and sanitizing procedure. I found it. Told you I'd win. All right, so cleaning and sanitizing procedure. Okay, here it is right here. Hvacr recommends that you use their ice machine cleaner, of course, which I don't find anything wrong with that. I just don't. But it says Hoshizaki Scale Away or a similar ice machine cleaner. However, any FDA approved ice machine cleaner with a 28 to 30% phosphoric acid solution is acceptable. Okay. And the next thing it says, if you carry a nickel safe cleaner, okay, nickel is a certain, nickel safe cleaner is a certain type of cleaner. Typically it's green. It says, make sure that that nickel safe does not have citric acid in it. Okay. So nickel safe ice machine cleaner is typically meant for like Manitowoc ice machines that have a nickel plated evaporator. If you put the phosphoric acid cleaners on there, it'll eat the nickel away. So they have nickel safe. So in my recent video, I used the Hvacr nickel safe ice machine cleaner. I have been told, okay, I have no documentation to prove this, but I have been told that the Hvacr nickel safe ice machine cleaner is not harmful to the Hoshizaki machines, but I have again, no science behind that. Okay. So that one says if a nickel safe has citric acid, you don't want to use it because it could potentially wear away the welds on the ice machine, on the back of the evaporator plates. So I have been told by what I consider to be a reliable source that that is not the case with the Hvacr nickel safe cleaner. So that being said, be cautious. If your nickel safe ice machine cleaner has citric acid, you definitely want to follow the Hoshizaki book and not use it on a Hoshizaki ice machine. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense for you. Let's see what else we got in here. Testo is German, maybe lame, but not bad quality. Yeah, you know, that's good. Hey, Sean S., thank you so much for that super chat, bud. That is amazing. I really appreciate it. And please, guys, smash the thumbs up button. We got 339 people watching right now and 190 likes. So get that number way up there, okay? Definitely helps out the channel. Let's see what else we got in here. I will say that some of the other things I'll be talking about on the tools channel is some of the new tools that I have in my van. I have a few of the Knipix tools inside there, and I'm really starting to like some of those. Some getting used to them, but they're really cool. So I'll be talking about that and some new thing, you know, everyday carry, that kind of stuff. So lots of cool videos coming up with my buddies. So let me see. What else is going on? Throw some more questions in here if you guys have them for sure, okay? What else do I have on there? If you guys haven't already, do me a favor and go check out the HVAC Overtime channel. Myself, Joe, Adam, and Bill do a show Friday evenings about 6:05 p.m. on the HVAC Overtime YouTube channel, which I just posted in there. And you definitely want to subscribe to that show. It's usually a really cool hang. We're definitely all sitting there drinking beers, just having a good time. Last week we had Bill Spohn from True Tech Tools, which was a really cool interview. So we've got some cool ones coming up too. So all right. How do I size a unit? Who, David? Dude, you are killing it with that question. How do you size a unit for a walk-in box? Well, David, I happen to be working on that video right now. So I'm doing a walk-in cooler equipment replacement like I do quite often. And I'm going to go through the entire process from doing the load calculation, selecting the equipment, selecting the refrigerant, calculating what size refrigerant lines to use. Oh my goodness, explosion. Did you guys know that when you're installing new refrigeration equipment and you have a condensing unit on the roof with 7/8 lines and you have an evaporator downstairs with 5/8 lines, you don't necessarily use 5/8 and you don't necessarily use 7/8. It all depends on the capacity of the equipment, the rise, the length of the line set. Your line set is not determined, the line set size is not determined just because the connection on the outside of the equipment are one particular size, okay? So I'm going to be going through line sizing. We're going to be going through component selection, like how do you select a TXV? How do you select a solenoid valve? We're going to be talking about that, okay? I brought in some partners on the video. It's definitely a slow process because this is one of the most whatever you want to say. I'm stumbling over my words right now, but it's a very difficult video because there's a lot of processes to it. More than likely, it's going to be multiple videos with like a summary and then a couple different in-depth dives into how to size equipment. So the short answer, how do you size equipment for a walk-in cooler? You find out what your heat load is, okay? What size equipment you need to move the heat from one place to another, okay? Then you select your condensing unit, then you select your evaporator, then you select the individual components that you need, then you select the line sizes and go from there, okay? So it's not just a, hey, I think you should put a 1 horsepower on there. maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't, you know, just depends. All right. What else we got in here? How do you replace the right size motor pulley? What to note when quoting for a new one? Angel. So when you're changing motor pulleys on an exhaust fan, on an AC, you want it to be identical. So you want to match up the size. Sometimes, especially if you're working on Browning pulleys, they usually do a really good job of putting the information on the pulley itself. So if you have a variable pitched, meaning it's an adjustable motor pulley on a Browning, you know, pulley or whatever, it'll say like VP 85, you know, or something like that. And each one of those numbers, variable pitch, and then, you know, the numbers after that are going to designate the size, the shaft size, and different stuff like that. So always replace like for like. Now, if you can't get data off of it, a tape measure is your friend. Measure the shaft size, measure the diameter, double groove, single groove pulley, what size belts on it. Is it a B series, an A series, that kind of stuff. That's for the simple. When you get into the high efficient equipment, industrial process equipment, data center equipment, you know, you might have to use certain belts, certain pulleys and stuff like that. So, all right. What else we got in here? Will the product being stored play a factor in the load? It definitely will, Kevin, because, hey, is it flowers, right? Is it for a florist and you've got equipment and it's drying out the flowers and it's killing them all? Or do you have, you know, lots of cardboard boxes in your walk-in and it's all storing milk, right? And you've got tons of cardboard boxes in there and you've got too much humidity in the box. So then when you go to pick it up, the milk is falling out of the bottom of the cardboard boxes because the cardboard's just absorbing all the moisture. Or there's nothing worse than in a beer walk-in. You go to grab a 6-pack and the beers fall out the bottom because they're just, you know, there's so much humidity in the case. So the product being stored in there definitely has a factor in the load size of the equipment. Is the customer bringing a forklift in there, right? Is this a giant warehouse and they're driving cars in and out? Delivery trucks come into the thing. That's a thing, right? So that all comes into play. You know, is the customer bringing trays of hot food into the walk-in to cool it? That comes into play. So everything comes into play when you're doing a load calculation, all the way down to how many lights are in there. Are they incandescent bulbs? What's the wattage? You know, how much heat are they putting off that we now have to move from inside that box to outside that box? So, all right. Do my employees have to sign a non-compete contract? Schematics. In the state of California, a non-compete contract doesn't mean anything. So if I made my employees sign a non-compete, good luck. Good luck with that one. So no. What's the worst habit I've got at work? Wanting to get home early, wanting to rush through service calls. I fight that all the time, guys. I have to fight myself to remember to look at the big picture. I'm not this person that's perfect all the time. There's days that I don't want to do things, you know? So I'm a lazy person by heart. I want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. So, you know, but I have to push myself. And oftentimes you guys motivate me because I started a video and it's like, God, I can't show that on a video. I have to go through this whole process. I have to do it right, you know? So, see what else we got in here. Is humidity calculated into the heat load calculations or separate? Oh, it's definitely going to be in the load because are you bringing in a lot of produce that has, you know, that's really wet and, you know, yeah, so humidity comes into it. It all comes into it. You need to know all that information. And, you know, keeping the humidity in there, removing the humidity, that kind of stuff all becomes a determining factor. So, you know, getting the coil too cold when you have a lot of humidity is going to lead to frost up situations. I mean, there's so many variables that come into it. So if you're lucky like me, you deal with general product coolers where you don't have to worry so much about humidity and things like that. But if you do, then that's when you're really going to need to get an engineer involved to help you to really make sure that you're calculating that. But in the video that I'm working on, I'm going to show you like, hey, this is what you do if you want to figure out exactly what the customer is going to keep in the box and that kind of stuff. So do I pay my techs for drive time and do I mind paying if they take really long PMs? My technicians do get paid for drive time. We charge the customer for drive time. Therefore, my technicians get paid for drive time. So, you know, some businesses have to do it in their business model where they change people's wages when they're driving and stuff. So be it. Luckily, we haven't had to do that. So, you know, their normal wage is what they get paid to drive to the call. But we don't pay for travel time home unless the customer gets billed for travel time home. Our company policy is overtime, after hour service calls, or Saturdays and Sundays, the customer pays port to port. So when I leave the shop in the morning and I get back to the shop, that's how long they're paying for on overtime. So therefore, the employees that work for us get paid port to port on overtime calls too. But when it comes to standard normal service calls, we only charge the customer drive time to the call. We do not charge them drive time home. Therefore, we do not pay our employees to drive home when you know, they're done with the service call. So, all right. If you front seat a service valve on a scroll compressor, can it cause compressor damage? Well, scroll compressors, they have things, especially Copeland scroll compressors, have safety protocols built into them that allows the scroll to separate inside. There's some science behind it. I'm going to probably butcher some of this, but if it ever runs into a vacuum, it'll separate inside the compressor and release the vacuum. But, you know, maybe another brand doesn't, I don't know. So it's not good to run a scroll compressor in a vacuum, no. And they don't like it. They're typically not made to pull into a vacuum. The valves inside really aren't made to handle that. So, yeah, it's not a good thing. Let me see what else we go in here. Why do I bypass a VFD on some exhaust fans? Well, oftentimes so I'm actually working on a project right now where I have a restaurant. I've talked about it before, but they used to have a variable smart hood system that would speed up and slow down based on smoke and heat and different things like that in the kitchen. And the customer doesn't want to repair that equipment anymore, or sometimes you can't even get the replacement components for that equipment anymore. So because they had direct drive exhaust fans, we have to go in and bypass the variable frequencies drives and put in conventional motor starters and different things like that. So that way we can still protect the motors. There's a lot of problems that come from that because the balance is adversely affected. I actually am working on a project right now. Unfortunately, it's not really something I can make a video about because of the location, but I'm completely doing a bypass on a hood system that used to have VFDs all in it. And it's actually a lengthy process because with this particular restaurant, what we want to do is I have to install new motor starters for the motors, right? And I have to put conventional hood switches on there, and I have to remove all the smart electronics from the system. And then I have to rewire everything and make sure that some key things happen. Number one, when you turn on the hood system, it needs to send a signal to every HVAC unit because we're using our HVAC units for makeup air. It needs to send a signal to every HVAC unit whenever the hood switch is on that turns the AC unit's indoor blower motors on and puts them into an occupied mode and open up the outdoor air damper to bring in fresh air to balance out the building. So that has to be wired into that system that I'm doing, right? So I have to set it up. We've got 4 motor starters and a couple relays. And between all of that, we have, when the power turns on, it turns on the indoor blower motors on the ACs. When the power's on, it also turns on all the motor starters. And if there happens to be a fire, they have fire suppression systems. The control package that I made is wired into the fire suppression system, and it'll get a signal from the fire suppression system if in a situation of a fire, and it will turn off all the makeup air to the building and leave the exhaust fans running. So that way, in a perfect world, it suffocates the fire until the fire department can get there, okay? Also built into this hood system that I did, I had to wire in an emergency circuit, because what happens if it's 2 in the morning, nobody's in the building, and there's a fire and the fire suppression system gets set off? Well, I have it set up to, no matter if the hood switches are on and off, it'll manually, when the fire suppression system goes off, it'll turn the exhaust fans on while still leaving the makeup air off. So it's a whole thing that I did. It's a really cool, fun project. But there's, like I said, there's just some big reasons why I can't show it on video. So, all right, let's see what else we got in here. Covered that. Right. So let's see what else we got in here. Looking through the chat right now. Already answered that question. Cool. Looks like we're kind of running out of stuff. Any Cali techs in the chat? Yeah, there's a few guys from California that I recognize in this chat right now. I'm from California too. So, all right. Well, throw some more questions in here. Make sure you put them in caps lock. I'll try to get to them real quick. In top chat, but your question gets dropped in live chat immediately upon posting it. Puffalupicus, I see your thing right now, but just stuff goes by so fast. But the top chat is only on your side. I have live chat on, so I see everything, but it's just a matter of not being able to see because there's so many comments going by. But Puffalupicus, if I'm not answering a question, bud, send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So, all right, smash the like button, please do, guys. All right. For the hood bypass, am I using a PLC and what brand? No, I'm just using 3 simple relays, 3 motor starters with overloads on them, or 4 motor starters with overloads. And then I'm using just a main power switch. And then I'm just doing everything within my relays. I'm wiring it in through the relays. So using normally open and normally closed contacts. Who's the better tech, HVACR North or Bill? Ooh, man. Yamo. Yamo's the better tech. So, all right. What else we got in here? Run for president, yeah. No, I run calls, Kevin. Still run calls or any other family. Yeah, no, I run calls for sure. So, I probably work more than my own guys. So, can I bring my dad on the show and ask him about HVACR stories? Yeah, I don't know that he's really that interested in it, but I've never really brought it up to him, but I will. What do I do when I accidentally charge the wrong refrigerant in a unit? I've done that. You just got to be honest about it, and basically you have to recover the charge, vacuum the system down, and then recharge it accordingly. So it's just time consuming, really. What else am I seeing in here? Do I use my smart probes to charge or mainly quick checks? Well, originally it was just for charging or quick checks, but I've been slowly transitioning to using my probes for installs, new startups, that kind of stuff. I've been using them a lot. So it's just kind of, sometimes I choose to use it, sometimes I don't. So, all right. Bill's got the better beard. I don't know, man. I'm going to catch up with Bill in a couple weeks. So, we'll be there. All right, guys. I really, really appreciate you guys making it in here. We're going to go ahead and cue up the outro music. I'm feeling some pain in my shoulder right now, so it's about time that I go chill out for a while. If I miss anything, make sure you send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I really, really do appreciate you guys. And we are going to turn that one on, and hit the outro music. And we will catch you on the next one. are you guys gonna leave, or are you just gonna sit here and wait? I mean, there's still 186 watching this, but I'm curious, are you actually watching this now, or are you watching this in the past because you're back in the video? You're trying to watch the video of the live stream, so maybe you haven't seen this part yet, or maybe you're just sitting there completely out of it because you're faded on something and you just don't even know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's hard to say, but I still don't understand why you guys are still here, just waiting. You made it all the way through the outro music, you know? You almost made it to the dog barking. Actually, you just made it to the dog barking. It's done. All right. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to end this for real.